Going on, guys? Hope everybody's enjoying their night. I'm back for more football talk, and the other day I was on here and I did a rundown of both the NFC and the AFC North divisions. Gave out record projections that I'm pretty confident in, and now I figured I would go ahead with only a few days left for the opening kickoff. I'm going to run down all the AFC and NFC South teams this time. And we'll start with the AFC. So, AFC South, I feel like it's no surprise that the Houston Texans are the odds on favorite to win the division again. Um, you know, they they're pretty much where they were last year. One odd thing that they did was, trade Laramie Tunzel, one of the better left tackles in the league. So, that was a little bit odd. And with the way that CJ Stroud was getting sacked last year, he was like the second most sacked quarterback in the league. And that was pretty much one of the main reasons why the Texans didn't look like they did from the previous year, 2 seasons ago. So we got a couple of injuries. The main one being Joe Mixon. We don't really know exactly how long he's going to be out, which is why Houston went ahead and got Nick Chubb, which was a great move, I feel like. If he can come back to, say, 70% of what he was in Cleveland before his injuries, they have a really good running back room. They also have Damian Pierce from a couple of seasons ago who came out, looking like he was going to really be a great addition for them for their future. Right now, as it stands, if Joe Mixon, when he comes back, Damian Pierce would wind up being third on the depth chart. So I don't know how much of him we're going to see. If we see a lot of him, it'll just be for probably the first 4 to 6 games. But I believe that that's Nick Chubb's, job for the foreseeable future until Mixon is healthy. Obviously, we got a couple of really good receivers. Tank Dell is going to probably miss, the majority, if not the entirety of this season. And, it's weird if you do fantasy football and, you look at Tank Dell's status, it doesn't actually have him on injured reserve. It just says out. So I thought that that was pretty weird. And I'm assuming that Houston's going to fix that pretty soon, because last year I actually remembered it as maybe the middle of the season when Tank Dell went down. But when I went back and looked, that was actually the very end of the year. That was like week, I think it said 16. So, and with that type of injury, yeah, he's definitely, I think he tore both his MCL and ACL, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be out for probably the entirety of the year. And that's also one of the reasons why Houston went out and picked up Christian Kirk, a pretty good veteran receiver, to pair with Nico Collins. And then they got a pair of rookie receivers, both out of the same college. And which is also another reason why they felt so confident in trading John Mechie III, I would think, to the Philadelphia Eagles. But yeah, both of those rookies are Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. They also have Dalton Schultz at tight end, pretty good veteran tight end. But really, the best part of this team, like I said, and especially with the woes offensive line, the best part of this team is the defense. The way that their defense was last year, I think it's going to be just about the same, if not even more dominant than they were last year. They got Will Anderson, they got Mario Edwards, Sheldon Rankins, Daniil Hunter on the other end. And then the linebackers, their whole defense, man, is something to really be excited about watching. I ranked every single position and every positional room. So the way I did it, not just for fantasy, but just for regular rankings as well. So I actually have their secondary ranked number 2 in the league. The only team that I have beating them out is the Denver Broncos, but their secondary is crazy. Derek Stingley Jr., and if you don't know anything about Kamari Lassiter, he is just as much of a lockdown corner as Derek Stingley. Kamari Lassiter, I remember a couple of seasons ago, I believe it was his last year in college, he only allowed, I think it was 1 touchdown the entirety of the season. So both of their corners on the perimeter, it's going to be close to impossible to be able to beat those guys. They also got C.J. Gardner-Johnson from Philly, Jimmy Ward, but he is injured. I don't know how long he'll be out for, and even CJ is actually kind of banged up right now. Then they have Jalen Petrie as their nickel. They got Kalen Bullock as their other safety, opposite of CJ or Jimmy Ward. And it's just they have so much talent on this defense. And really credit to D'Amico Ryans, because he instilled that same type of atmosphere as really Houston had back when him and Brian Cushing and J.J. Watt were running the show on the field playing. But I also wanted to say, so their defense overall for fantasy, if you got them, you're gonna love the points that you wind up getting from this group, man. They're gonna have probably around 50 plus sacks this year. They're gonna have a ton of turnovers. I have them ranked 3rd in fantasy. I have only Baltimore and the Broncos defense better. And for their front 7, I have them ranked 3rd there. I also have CJ Stroud ranked number 10 overall. Nico Collins, I have ranked 7 overall, but when it comes to fantasy for PPR, I actually have him ranked one above that at number 6. So like I said to start the show, I think that Houston is, I don't think it's a secret. They're going to win the division again. And, bearing any huge surprises or, setbacks with injuries, I have Houston going 10-7 again. Some of the teams that I have them losing to, I have them losing the opener in LA to the Rams. I also think that they're probably not going to fare so well when they go to Baltimore in week 5. And I have a couple of surprise losses, like to Tennessee. I think they lose to Tennessee just once this year, and I think it'll be when they play at Tennessee in week 11. Then I have them also losing to Buffalo, and that's the following week, week 12. I don't think that they're going to be able to stick around with the Chiefs, and I think that the Arizona Cardinals might also be best them in week 15. So I have them losing back-to-back weeks 2 different times on the season. But 10-7, I feel like that's a pretty fair assessment for them. And I do see them, like I said, winning the division. And they'll probably land 4th when it comes to the playoff seeding. But, I mean, we'll see what happens. We got a long way away until then. Then I got the Indianapolis Colts up next. And I don't really know what to make of the Colts. I mean, yes, they have talent. They did also lose both their center and their guard, who in the offseason went over to the Minnesota Vikings, and Will Fries and the center that I'm blanking on his name right now. But the quarterback situation is very interesting to me because when you go out and you draft somebody like an Anthony Richardson and you draft him at the top of the draft board, I mean, you would think that you would give time to be on the field. Like, I get it, nowadays, not just in the NFL, but in, a lot of professional sports, sometimes the owners like to kind of move on from the head coaches and not give them, a fair amount of time to try and turn the team around. So on one side, I understand if that's the reason why that they felt that they needed to go ahead and go forward with Daniel Jones. But I just feel like if you watch and it's a completely different offense, I guess, but if you watch the way Daniel Jones played over the span of his career already in New York, I mean, I feel like we've seen a lot of tape, enough tape on him to know that he's not really a starting caliber quarterback. Now, I get it, there's always going to be situations where, somebody goes down and then you put him in. And I think that that's probably the route they should have went with, because in overall talent and ability as a quarterback and just a professional athlete in the sport of football, man, I think Anthony Richardson is, way more talented than Daniel Jones. So, I mean, I don't know. I tried to give Daniel Jones the benefit of the doubt for a few years, and then, you really seen it last year when Barkley wasn't there anymore, which, I mean, honestly, I knew that, 70% of that offense was because of the abilities that Saquon has, but Daniel Jones just, I don't know. I really don't know how it's going to work out. And it's a shame because I know coming out of college, there were actually people that were comparing him to Peyton Manning, I believe, was the comparison. But I just think that Anthony Richardson gives them a better shot, not only now, but for the future. And the whole thing is, people could say whatever they want, but there wasn't a lot of tape on Anthony Richardson because he didn't play a lot. He only played one season in college. And, he took off. And that was the whole reason why he was such a high-end draft pick. And I mean, you're only going to get better if you're playing. Like, whenever I talk about Anthony Richardson in this situation with Indy, regardless of who the other quarterback was going to be, you got to think about the Giants back in the day when they drafted Eli, and Eli didn't really get, he didn't get a huge chance at first to prove that he was the guy. The Giants they brought in Kurt Warner, and the way they did it was kind of strange because if I remember correctly, they kind of went back and forth, and in certain situations would have Eli on the field, and then in other situations they would have Warner on the field, and it kind of played out like that for a little while. And then finally they ripped the Band-Aid off. They said, all right, Eli, go out there. We're just going to see what you got. And look what happened. I mean, I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson is going to turn into Eli. I'm not saying he's going to win them multiple rings, but at some point, I mean, the way to learn football, at a professional elite level is to be out there on the field and learn from your mistakes. So I really don't love this situation. And because of that, I really don't know what type of team they're going to be this year. Yeah, they brought in some DBs to help them out on the defensive side. But especially with losing both of those offensive linemen, their two best offensive linemen, and having not one but two injury-prone quarterbacks. Yeah, they have Jonathan Taylor. JT is a great running back. He's a top 10 running back. I have him ranked number 8, and then I believe I have him overall just as a running back in general for this season. And then I have him ranked, I think, number 7 in fantasy. And they have some, a decent amount of depth at receiver. Pittman Jr., he's banged up, I feel like, a lot, but he is a good receiver. Josh Downs has shown that he is, an incredibly talented and gifted receiver. Alec Pierce also, I feel like, doesn't really get a lot of shine, but he also is very good. Then they have Adonai Mitchell. They got Ashton Doolin. So they have, and then they got Mo Alley Cox as a backup tight end, who I feel like is underrated as well. He's not, I wouldn't say he's like a top 10 tight end in the league, but, he's a very good, reliable safety valve for a quarterback. And now they have Tyler Warren. And if you don't know much about Tyler Warren coming out of Penn State, and he's incredible. I think he had over 1,200 yards last year in Penn State. And he can do so many things. He's so versatile. He can run the ball. He can actually pass if they need him to. He can be like a fullback. He can catch the ball. He can block. He can do it all, man. So again, that's why I just believe that maybe they're making the wrong move here. And especially when the head coach came out and doubled down and said, this isn't just like a short-term thing. Daniel Jones is going to be the quarterback for the season. And he did say verbatim for the season. So maybe he's already thinking to himself like, God forbid it doesn't work out. I don't want AR to get traded. I don't want him to look for a way out. So, yeah, I like their defense, but offensively, I'm just not really sure how this is going to look. We'll find out soon. But I also wanted to just real quick, again, not to like bury the guy or anything, but when you look at the scouting report for Daniel Jones coming out of college, it says, so if you don't remember, he was drafted in the first round. It was a 2019 draft, 6th overall pick. He was a 3-year starter at Duke, and under head coach David Cutcliffe, the scouting report noted his good size, athleticism, and intelligence, as well as experience. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but intelligence, like the football IQ that I've seen from him, he did not show great intelligence. A lot of times, I think even the Giants receivers would kind of give him stuff in the huddle and on the sidelines because he just made poor decisions at times. And I mean, yeah, they didn't have like a great offensive line, but I feel like he could have just looked for checkdowns. He could have did little things to get himself and the offense out of trouble. And I didn't really see a whole lot of that, except for when Saquon was there. They had the 1 year, I believe it was Brian Daboll's first year as their head coach, that they went to the playoffs. And aside from that, wasn't really a lot to write home about. And, I mean, yeah, he does have good size. Athleticism, though, I would say that's true as well. But also being a versatile quarterback like the way that he is has also costed him ample time. He's missed several games. He had the neck injury. He had other injuries. So, yeah. And it says strengths, field vision, and anticipation. He was praised for his ability to anticipate throws and use the field vision to effectively read defenses. Pocket movement and scrambling. Okay, that makes sense. He was considered a good athlete with the ability to move within the pocket and scramble. Okay. Poise and presence under pressure. He demonstrated the ability to stay calm, look for targets when under pressure. I mean, I don't know. I feel like even that at times he didn't really look too calm to me. His weaknesses, arm strength, and delivery. Scouting reports constantly noted that Jones lacked a strong arm and had a slow, short delivery. And we've seen that. Decision-making, here you go. Decision-making and chance throws. Jones was criticized for making too many risky throws into coverage and not throwing the ball away in those situations. And yes, we've seen that. Durability concerns, again, yes, we've seen this. His lanky build raised concerns about his potential for injury. Accuracy and consistency, while showing flashes of accuracy, his overall accuracy was considered inconsistent. So we've largely seen that. Overall, the scouts reports were generally viewed Jones as a low ceiling but high floor prospect. That sounds about right. I don't even, what is the highest floor that we ever seen? What was the best that we've ever seen from him is my question. Because I'm going to tell you his stats in a second. But also overall, he was seen as potentially a solid starter, but not necessarily a franchise caliber quarterback. Well, apparently the Giants didn't think that because all the money that they gave him when they really should have just, if nothing else, I would have franchise tagged him. I mean, this is getting old. I know people don't want to hear it anymore, but I mean, we seen I mean, I don't think people really realized and thought how great Saquon would have been with Philly. I mean, to that extent, to run for that many yards, to account for that much of the offense when they already had not one but two Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers. And honestly, probably, top three in the league wide receiver duo. And Jalen Hurts doesn't get the respect that he deserves either. But right now we're talking about the Colts. And I don't know, man. This was just it's a wild situation for Indy. I feel for them. But so when you look at his stats since he's been in the league, Daniel Jones has played 70 games, and I don't know if you know this or not, but he's only had 70 passing touchdowns. It's a touchdown per game. That is absurd. I mean, he's a quarterback. That doesn't really translate to me, but that right there should show you the whole picture. And for anybody that is a Daniel Jones believer or for whatever reason, because I'm not trying to attack him. It's just I'm showing you evidence. I'm giving you proof here. But he also had 15 rushing touchdowns in his career. So he's had 85 touchdowns, right? When you divide that by the 70 games that he's played, that's less than 1.25 touchdowns per game. And he's missed, let's look. His rookie year, he missed 3 games. He missed 2 games, 2020. 2021, he missed 6 games. 2022, he only missed 1 game. Maybe that was the year that they went to the playoffs. And that would make sense because they would have sat him maybe the one. But 2023, he played 6 games, so he missed 11. And then last year, he only played he missed 8 games. Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, he missed 8 games last year. So again, I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Indy will do better than what I have them marked down for. But the record that I have for them is 6-11. And I do have them actually winning 4 games in the division, believe it or not. But I only have them winning 2 games outside of their division. They have a pretty tough schedule. They start the season off right away with playing Miami, who, people are not as high on Miami as I think they should be. I heard it earlier today. I believe it was Peter Schrager was saying that, Miami is probably going to be the biggest sleeper team in the AFC this year. And I kind of agree. Now, I don't know the way that it's all going to map out because of how deep the AFC is in total. I mean, there could be 3 teams from the AFC North that could make it into the playoffs. There could be 3 teams from the AFC West. So you really don't think about the AFC East as a team that's going to have 3, a division that's going to have 3 teams, even 2 teams rather, making it in because of what I just said. There could possibly be 3 teams coming out of the West or 3 teams out of the North. But so they're playing Miami first week. That's probably a loss. Then they're playing Denver at home. We've seen what happened last year. And I feel like Denver is going to be even more dominant, especially on defense this season than they were last year. So that's probably a loss. Then they're playing they are playing the Raiders, but they're playing the Rams this year. They're playing the Cardinals, that whole division. So it's going to be difficult. So I have them going 6-11. I also have the scouting report for AR, but I'm not going to get to that today. We'll talk about that another time. Jacksonville. Jacksonville is another team. I feel like they're probably going to be a little bit better than last season, but I don't see them. I don't see them in the playoffs. So, you know, we also don't really know exactly what to expect out of Travis Hunter. We don't really know what that whole thing is going to look like. I mean, there's people out there that are saying that he is going to play both ways and he'll probably be able to do it at a large percentage, but it's the NFL. And I mean, I want to believe that. I want to see that. Like, I don't watch baseball, but that's very intriguing what Ohtani is able to do. So, like, I'm all for it. If there's some way, somehow, that Travis Hunter can play, I don't even know, 60% of the snaps, 65% of the snaps per game, that would be awesome. But it's just, he is a smaller guy, man. I don't know if, the physicality, I'm not sure. But I would look at it from this perspective. I would do certain packages on offense because they do have decent corners, but I feel like he would be more of a threat for opposing offenses than he would for opposing defenses. Like, I believe that they didn't trade all that draft capital and everything just to have him come in and be a receiver more than anything, because they have Brian Thomas Jr. They have Diami Brown, who's a decent receiver, and then they have, well, now with the rookie running back too, I don't know if they're going to do much with him, but they do have Tank Bigsby. They got Travis Etienne, who is, one of the other like receiving type backs. So I feel like they'll have plenty if they just want to sprinkle Hunter in certain, plays, certain packages at times. And then you also have Brenton Strange, who I'm hearing a lot of good things about him, their tight end. And he could be a threat too. So I also, when I think about this situation with Hunter, maybe it depends on what teams you're playing. Like, maybe if you play, say, a team like Denver Broncos and now they have Dre Greenlaw, like, why put him in harm's way and have him play receiver in that game? Maybe have him be the corner for the majority of the game, at least if you're going to sprinkle him in on certain packages. Then play, for example, a team like Baltimore. I don't think I would have defense. Derrick Henry, I feel like, would probably run right through him. Not be good. He might be sore the next day, the next week. So maybe like that when you're playing, have him just be on the awesome majority of the game. But I think there's a lot of ways you can look at, really. So for their roster, though, I'm not really too sure with their defense. I think their defense is better than they were last year. The better edge rushers in the league, Josh Hines Allen. They have Eric Armstead. They have Trayvon Walker. They have Devin Lloyd. They have Eric Murray, Darnell Savage, who's actually, I think, a backup, Jordan Lewis. So, I mean, they have some pieces. But I don't really know how this is going to go. And the head coach, Liam Cohen, he did some big things for Tampa Bay for their offense. He was their OC the past couple of seasons. So their offense will probably be better than they've been recently. The defense will be a little bit better, but they're kind of in that gray area. Like, they're not, I don't think they're going to be a bottom barrel team, but I don't think they're going to be as close as people would maybe think to the playoffs. So I have them going 7-10. They got a tough year ahead, man. They're playing the whole AFC West. They're playing the NFC West. So I don't know. I have them with a surprise win, though. I have them beating Arizona in Week 12 at Arizona. So we'll see if I end up being right about that. But yeah, 7-10. Maybe they get 8 wins at most. I can't see them getting more than that. And then we got the Tennessee Titans to finish rounding out the AFC South. We don't really know with this team either, but I think that Tennessee could surprise some teams. And Cameron Ward, if he can play up to the level that we think that he can play, how he played in college, then they got their guy. They got their guy for the future. And I kind of think that that's what it's going to be. It's a shame that Will Levis didn't work out, I guess, but I think Ward's the real deal. I'm not high on Tony Pollard, the running back, and Tajay Spears is hurt. He's going to be out for a little while. They have a couple of younger guys in Julius Chestnut and then Khalil Mullins, who I've seen a little bit of him in preseason. He's a rookie. He's a bigger back. I don't really know that he'll wind up getting an opportunity at all while he's in Tennessee. I kind of hope he does. I kind of want to see it because he's a bigger type of back, so I feel like it will work in that offense. For all those years, we've seen Derrick Henry, and he's kind of got more like that frame. So they could, I don't know. I don't know how their run game is going to look. Like I said, I'm not really big on Tony Pollard. He was okay in Dallas. I never really thought he was that great. I think he's more of a situational running back. I don't really see him as like a franchise running back. Calvin Ridley in the preseason, him and Ward, man, they were cooking. They got some chemistry cooking up down there, and I love it. I love that Calvin Ridley looks to me like he's back to his form prior to all the offseason stuff. You remember he was out for a whole season. When he was in Atlanta, he had a few really good years. And I think that's the version of Calvin Ridley that we're going to see. Even when he was with Jacksonville a couple years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, maybe last year, I forget. But, he was doing pretty better than he had been because there was like 2 straight years when he came back that it wasn't great. But last year, he had about, I think, 90 targets or something like that, had over 60 receptions. So, and I think this offense is probably better than the offense at that time that he had when he was with Jacksonville. Then you also got a couple of veteran receivers, Tyler Lockett, who's still able to do it. Yes, he's a little bit older now. He's getting to the point, where, maybe he only has a couple seasons left, but he's a very reliable target. They also got Van Jefferson. They also have Chigo Kongwu, who I'm high on him, especially in fantasy football. I think he's a really good sleeper, especially if you pair him and get the stack with Cam Ward. Their offensive line, I don't hate it. I think it's pretty decent. Dan Moore Jr., Lloyd Cushenberry, who Denver had drafted him, and he didn't really pan out too well in Denver, but over time he's been developing, and he looks like he's a pretty dang good center. They got Kevin Zeitler at guard. They also have J.C. Latham. And then their defense. A lot of people don't realize how good their defense actually was a season ago. Their defense was like top 5, top 10 in almost every category, especially in the beginning of the season. So I think their defense is going to be just as good, and I like that they got Quadre Diggs. They also ended up cutting him, but they also had, and now he's with the Raiders. I think he made the roster cuts too. I think he's still there. They had Jamal Adams and Quadre Diggs. But now they still have Quandre. They got Xavier Woods. They got McCrary. They got at the nickelback. They got Amani Hooker, and they got L'Jarius Sneed. He is hurt. I don't know if he's going to start the season, but at some point he should be back. Cody Barton came over from Denver, who had a very good year last year for the Broncos. They got Arden Key. They got Draymond Jones, Jeffrey Simmons, who's still one of the best defensive linemen in the sport. Devondre Sweat, Sebastian Joseph Day. So, like I said, man, their defense is really good. Their offense, I think, is going to be pretty dang good too. But they're going to need time. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll surprise me. But I do have Tennessee going 6-11. Only because I have them only going 1-5 in their division. Their division is, it's not like the NFC North or AFC North or AFC West. It's not stacked like that, but they're closely contested games usually, I think, in that division. And, you feel like they're probably going to have maybe 2 losses to Houston right off the bat, but you never know, man. They could surprise you. But I do think that they will be really good and they will be a playoff team in the near future. Probably like maybe as close as next season or the year after that. Then we got the NFC South, and first up, the Atlanta Falcons. And before the season even starts, they already have some really serious injuries here. Michael Penix Jr. is a left-handed passer, and his blind side is going to take quite a blow here. The starter and the backup tackle are both going to miss significant time. One of them is out for the entire year. I believe that's the starter, I think. And then the backup, I think they said, is going to be out for a lengthy amount of time as well. So I don't really know what their plan is here. They have Jake Matthews, but they're not going to move him to the other side. So I don't know. Maybe they move Chris Lindstrom out to tackle. And then, they could do that. And then they could potentially put Elijah Wilkinson as one of the guards and move either him or Bergeron to the right guard side. They have some things that they can play around with, who knows? But I don't really know a lot about Penix. I seen him in college in the national championship game. I heard a lot of good things. I seen him a little bit last year when he took over for Kirk Cousins. He's just he's all right. He can win you some games. And they got Bijan Robinson, who's one of the better running backs in the league, top 3. They got Drake London, who's a very good receiver. Darnell Mooney was pretty good too for Chicago. And then, even last year he was pretty decent. Ray McLeod. And I think from what I understand, Kyle Pitts is going to have more of a role, I think, as not just tight end, but they're going to have him in the slot, I believe, at times too. So look for him to get a ton of production this year. And if you took him in fantasy every year, it seemed like, oh man, like he's going to be great this year. But it never really panned out. So hopefully, that is what we see from him this year, because he is vastly talented. He is very, very talented. And if he was in the right system every year that he's been in the league, I think that we would be talking about him as like a top 5 tight end. So, we have some things to look forward to if you're an Atlanta Falcon fan. Their DBs are pretty decent. They got AJ Terrell Jr. They got Jesse Bates still, Jordan Fuller. They got Mike Hughes, D. Alford. I just hope that their defense is better than they were last season, especially because right before the season started, if you guys remember, Justin Simmons they signed, and Matthew Judon, and Judon just did not look like the Matthew Judon that we were used to seeing out in New England. Justin Simmons still had a pretty decent season, though. So I think, to me, it's crazy that he's still today is not on a team. you would think there'd be plenty of people out there. I mean, he was one of the best safeties in the National Football League for several seasons, and nobody picked off Patrick Mahomes more than Simmons in the span of his career that he was in the league. Now, I have Atlanta, like I said, I'm not really too high on them either. This whole division, really, this is to me is like a division just like the AFC South, where I feel like we don't need to see even 4 or 5 weeks of the season to pretty much have an idea of who's going to win the division. To me, that's not going to be Atlanta. I think they're going to go 6-11. Carolina is a team that I think we should be really watching closely this year. Bryce Young really started to turn it on and started to show us who he was in college and why he was drafted so high towards the end of the season last year. He gave the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, and even the Denver Broncos, for the most part, really, he gave them all a pretty big scare. They should have beat the Eagles. It was crazy. I mean, they shouldn't have, but how that game turned out, and they only lost, I think, by a field goal. Like, they were right there. They actually should have won that game. Same thing with the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes had to bring them back at the end of the game to overcome that from being a loss. And I believe both the Eagles and the Chiefs played in Carolina when they played Carolina. And the Broncos, it was more so for Denver. It was a struggle in the beginning of the game. But after probably the second quarter, Denver started to pull away. But still, man, they played all three of those teams very tough. Obviously, Kansas City and Philly were in the Super Bowl, and Denver was a playoff team. So that's kind of saying a lot there. And but when you look at their team, so they have a loaded running back room. They have Jonathan Brooks, who is still hurt, but he was highly regarded as one of the better running backs coming out of the draft a season ago. And he is, I believe, 4th on the depth chart because he's still trying to come back from that. But if they use him at some point this season, I would not be surprised. They also have Travis Etienne's younger brother, Trevor, who was very good for the Georgia Bulldogs. They have, and he's their third string. They got Rico Dowdle, who was with Dallas for a couple of years as their backup. And we all seen how good Chuba Hubbard was last year. And then when you look at their receivers, Jalen Coker is hurt. He'll be out for a little while. But he looked like he was doing some really good things last year, had some chemistry with Bryce Young. Xavier Legette is another one that we should be looking at, who had a phenomenal year last year. He had the best year of any receiver that they had other than Adam Thielen. And Adam Thielen is obviously gone now. He went back home to Minnesota. So they're going to expect a lot out of McMillan, that receiver who the best receiver in the draft this year. He was very good last year in college. He had, I think he had 1,300 yards or something like that. But yeah, so they have a decent amount of talent on this roster. Their defense, I think, should be better than last year, but they're I don't really know what to make with it. Like, I love their defensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator, N'Jon Evero, he was the guy who actually started to turn around the Denver Broncos defense a few years ago. And then when he got to his peak, he ended up leaving the year that Sean Payton took over as the head coach. But he kind of started that whole thing for the Denver Broncos defense. Because if you remember Vance Joseph in his first year as their coordinator, they looked okay at times, but they also gave up like 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. So, yeah, we'll have to see defensively what this team looks like. But from the offensive perspective, I think their offense is going to be pretty good. I have them going. I mean, I wanted to give them even more wins than this because, again, this is a team that I think could really surprise some people this year. And we got to keep our eyes peeled because you never know. The NFC is going to be very tough this year. I think we could pretty much assume the 7 teams that are going to be in the playoffs, maybe go as far as like even put 9 teams in that window. But Carolina, I have them going 5-12. I just hope that they prove me wrong and win more than that. New Orleans Saints, no disrespect, but there's not really a lot to talk about here. And nothing against Kellen Moore. I think over time, he's going to be a great head coach for these guys. We've seen how great he was as an offensive coordinator, not only for Philly, but also for Dallas. He was also with the Chargers for one season before he went to Philly by way of Dallas. And, I think I'm a little surprised. I thought Tyler Shuck was going to wind up winning the starting quarterback job, but they gave it to Spencer Rattler. He was a decent quarterback in college. He showed that he has talent. He played in South Carolina for the Gamecocks. I watched him a little bit there. Last year he didn't really show me a whole lot in the NFL, but I don't know. I don't really know what to make of this team because they've also had some injury problems. But with them, it was salary cap. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Sean Payton decided to, not fully retire, but, he basically told them, like, I'm going to take a year off, or maybe he told them he was going to retire, but he worked for Fox for 1 year. And then he ended up, it was actually a trade because he was still under contract with New Orleans. So he ended up getting traded to the Denver Broncos. But I think it was because they were strapped, man. They had no salary cap. And I want to say they're still in the negative right now, but they did free up a good amount of space. But you look at the roster, you got Chris Olave, extremely talented receiver. But he's already had like 3 or 4 concussions in a 3 or 4 year span. So make of that what you will. Kamara, great dual threat running back. I've always loved Alvin Kamara. I think he'll have a pretty good year. Rashid Shaheed, a track star. They got Brandon Cooks back. He's obviously, in his 30s at this point. I don't know how much he's going to, help them out. But they got the talent. They got the talent around the quarterback. I think they need probably a better quarterback. Juwan Johnson is going to be pretty healthy. Their tight end. Taysom Hill is still there. He's hurt. Don't know when he's coming back, but we've seen who he is for them. He's their Swiss Army knife. He can throw, pass, run. He can get punt returns, kick returns. He can tackle. Literally can do everything. That's why they call him the Swiss Army knife. Their offensive line, yeah. They look, maybe in middle of the pack, I guess, at best. They still got Cam Jordan. Their defense is pretty decent, to be honest with you. They probably need one or, better nickel, maybe. Isaac Yiadom. I seen a lot of him in Denver when he came in the league. He's decent. Probably another starting corner. Pete Werner is a pretty good linebacker. Demario Davis is still there. Chase Young. So, like I said, they have a pretty decent defense. But again, with them, it's I think the quarterback. The quarterback probably upgrading the offensive line. They've been strapped for cash. So in the next couple of years, they'll probably make out better. But last year they got off to a very hot start. That OC is now gone. He is the head coach of the Seattle, or I'm sorry, not Seattle. He is the OC for the Seattle Seahawks this year. I'm blanking on his name. It was the son of, where are we at here? Seattle. Clint Kubiak. Yeah, it was the Saints OC last year. I'm right. So Clint Kubiak had them in a great way with Derek Carr last year. They actually, through the first, I think, 2 or 3 games of the season, had scored more points than anybody in NFL history. I believe that was the stat. But yeah, this year, their OC has now changed, and it is Brandon Staley. No, I'm sorry. That's their defensive coordinator. I was going to say. No, it's Doug Nussmeier, who was Philly's quarterback coach last year. So we'll see how that works out because Philly didn't really throw a whole lot last year. But New Orleans, I got them only amounting to a 3-14 team. Sorry. Don't hate me. That's my opinion, my projection, and we'll see if I'm right. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I have winning the division. Again, I believe this will be the 5th or 6th straight season if they do. And we really seen everything we need to know last year. We know how great this team is going to look. We know that Chris Godwin is probably not going to be himself until maybe around week 4, week 6, something like that. They did get the rookie receiver who's going to come in right away and probably have a large target share. Mike Evans, the savvy veteran who's always got 1,000 yards every season of his career thus far. So this year, if he can get 1,000 yards again, he'll beat the all-time record that was held by Jerry Rice. Bucky Irving, we've seen him last year in his rookie season. Incredible, phenomenal. Probably the best running back that they've had in a decade plus. Cade Otton, who for fantasy, I've been telling people I think he is a sleeper too. He has really good hands, and I don't think people really pay attention to him because most of the attention on that team goes with either Bucky Irving or Godwin and Evans. They also have a really decent offensive line, and last year was proof. We've seen how good their rush offense was. We've seen how good the passing game was. Their defense is also, I feel like, underrated. They still have Vita Vea. They have Hassan Reddick. They have Levante David, Anthony Walker Jr., Yaya Diaby, Jamil Dean, Antoine Winfield Jr. I was kind of hoping that Shiloh was going to make the team, the roster, Shiloh Sanders, but he did get cut, and I don't think anybody's picked him up yet. But anyway, so I have Tampa going 9-8, but I wouldn't be surprised if they win 10 games. They just, last year, like, it was crazy because they actually lost to the Falcons both times that they played them, but they still ended up winning the division. And it was Atlanta's division for the taking last year. But because struggles with Kirk Cousins and, the turnovers, and there was a couple of games where Atlanta should have won and, ended up losing in the last couple of minutes of the game. There was a couple of games where Atlanta got blown out too, but so, yeah, guys, that's what I got. And then real quick, I'm just going to end it on this. So, again, we started the first episode the other night. I was talking about all the AFC North and NFC North teams. And so just to kind of backtrack for a second, I wanted to go over what the under-overs are for the season total record. And I wanted to give you my overs and unders. The Baltimore Ravens, they have them at 11.5 this year win total. I have them over for that. I have them at 12 wins. I'm just going to go in order of the way that the odds are here. The Detroit Lions, they have them at 10.5. I have them with the over as well. The Green Bay Packers, I have them with the over. They have them at 9.5. Cincinnati, they also have at 9.5 wins. I have them with the over. Minnesota Vikings are at 8.5. I actually took the under here because, as I described in the first episode, the way that Minnesota looks, I just think it's tough to put basically a red-shirted, rookie and have the same outcome as a season ago. Justin Jefferson, I mean, it's a hamstring injury. It's not serious, but we all seen in the past how soft tissue injuries could be lagging and could wind up turning into something more serious. So beware of that. Plus, yes, I understand that they brought in Adam Thielen, but again, Jordan Addison is going to be suspended the first 4 weeks of the year. The defense, I don't think they're going to be. I think they're going to be right around what they were last year. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just have them with the under. Chicago, 8.5 wins they got them at. I have them with the over because I actually project them to win 9 games this year. Pittsburgh Steelers, 8.5. I also have them with the over. Cleveland Browns, they have them at 4.5 wins. I have them with the over. Then of all the teams in the South, the New Orleans Saints, 4.5 wins. Obviously, I have them with the under. Tennessee Titans, 5.5. I have them with the over. Carolina, 6.5. I am going to say the over. Indianapolis Colts, 7.5. I like them with the under. Jacksonville, 7.5. I like them with the under. Atlanta, 7.5. I like them with the under. Tampa with 9.5. Okay, so I said what I said. They're 9-8. They're gonna go, but like I said, between 9 and 10. So you know what? I'll just go ahead with the over with Tampa. And Houston is the last one. Houston 9.5. I have them with the over. So, yeah, that's about it for tonight, guys. It's really, really early in the morning here, and I will be back on later today or tonight to do the rundown and the projections of. I want to do the East last because the first game of the season is obviously the Cowboys and the Eagles. So I guess we'll do the AFC West and NFC West later today, tonight, whatever. So yeah, and the rest of the week we'll also do on Thursday. I'll do the NFC East and the AFC East. Rundown for the projections and everything, and then under overs. And I will also, I don't know, I guess we'll do like a game preview for the Thursday night game, and maybe I'll give out a few either prop picks or we'll do some stardom situms for fantasy. We'll see how it goes. But all right, I'm going to log off. I was on Twitch and Kick for this right now. Anybody that's watching or watches this later, please follow, like, I guess share if you want. And I'm gonna have everything uploaded within the next 24 hours. This episode and the next one that I'm going to do later tonight, and it'll be streaming on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, pretty much everywhere. I'm going to try to cut some clips up and put it on all my socials. So, all right, talk to you guys later, and thanks for listening. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Over and out.